what you just said. Thanks. Which was, it was just totally incidental, but one of the things I think is most underutilized in DA and could be actually useful at the DNC is the way DA does or doesn't do public relations work in terms of, like you said, getting out and demonstrating or whatever. I mean, and part of that is from my recent experience is probably COVID, but nonetheless, I think we could get a lot of free media in so many different ways. And I think at the DNC is a perfect place to do it. So I'm just saying that in response to something you said, and because so you will remember that. I'll help.
Yeah,
I'll be happy to help.
Yeah, at DNC meetings, I'd have to learn more about the media presence at DNC meetings. I think they're there, but I mean, one of the meetings I went to was the one where they voted on the reforms. So I think there was a lot more media attention. That might not be typical of a DNC meeting. I think there was probably more media attention at that one, although there was also this recent one where they were choosing the location for the convention, when they chose the location of the convention. Again, that would draw media. I don't know what's on the agenda for October to draw media and whether there's an opportunity for DA to kind of try to grab the spotlight a little bit, or what kind of issues there might be.
Planning for 2024 is probably on the agenda, so yeah. I would say that get attention.
Yeah, but whether how we'd have to figure out, like, if we tried to grab the spotlight when the media is there and the DNC wants them focused on the DNC's agenda. I don't know, but I'm willing to dress up if that's if that's helpful. I actually have I've borrowed from Ken Sherman his Uncle Sam costume, and I tried it on this week, and it actually looks good. It doesn't look okay. It looks good. I think it looks good. So if I were able to go to the convention, I'm committing now that I would wear that and keep up the tradition of having someone in the DA delegation like Ken did, dressed up to try to get some photo ops and a little exposure for DA.
Beth, I saw your waving hand. Did you have a question?
I did. I had my hand up in the chat.
Oh, sorry.
Do you go ahead?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So one of the things that I've been grateful for you doing, to me, you're someone who embodies having a longer table and not a higher wall. So what specific ways do you envision two-way communication, basically liaising between the DA membership leaders up from them to the DNC, and then from DNC down?
Okay, well, that's a great question.
Improving communication and understanding.
Right. Yeah, that's a great question, and relates to the published topic today. So I'm happy that we're getting into questions related to the DNC, the convention, and you, which is what this event is called. So so one of the questions that I think I shared in publicizing this event was like talking about how we'd ensure regular and responsive two-way communication, like between our DNC members and DA members, including DPCA voting reps who elect the DNC members. Although in a convention year, it's a broader number that elect the DNC members, but nonetheless, DNC members are elected, to represent. So, so a couple of things that I think would be helpful would be reporting at regional meetings for those who are at regional meetings, to report on what's happening with the DNC, which there'll be more and less news at different times of the year. I think the town halls that are offered by the DNC delegation. So for those who aren't aware, usually whenever there's a DNC meeting, the DA delegation holds like an open session before the meeting, and then another one typically after the meeting. So before is to talk about what's on the agenda and share views of the DNC members and solicit feedback from folks who are attending. And then the one afterward is to report back. And so I think those should happen at 2 times, so that there's, instead of just a single town hall before and a single one after one, that there'd be two at different times so that they're more accessible for folks around the world. There could be opportunities to do some surveys. So I know in 2017, when the DNC had an somewhat open election for DNC chair, the DA delegation did ask DPCA voting reps, I think, although maybe they asked a little more broadly, like who they would like to see as DNC chair. And so there was an opportunity for people to comment on that. And I think there could be other opportunities in the future. It's a little bit easier with an election because you would know sooner like who the candidates are and have more time for getting feedback, whereas the resolution process is pretty tight. Like I think the deadline for resolutions for this meeting is September 14th. So there'd only be between the 14th of September. Well, that's the deadline. So when the resolutions come out for people to see is going to be sometime later. So it's a pretty quick turnaround to, for the DA delegation to know about that and then get survey information out. But anyway, I'm going into a little too much detail probably there. I loved the transparency reports that John Baumlin did when he was serving as a DNC member. So I think something like that is a good idea. Martha, after taking on the chair position, did send out, I think, or there was a report sent out after the ASDC meeting. So that's Association of State Party Chairs, just for those who don't know. So I think that was helpful to see. I think that I might, if I get to serve as a DNC member, provide a second live stream of the DNC meeting. So there's a person, Selena Vickers in West Virginia, who's been attending every Rules and Bylaws Committee, every DNC meeting and live streaming sessions. And I've actually helped with that at one meeting that I went to. We divided and conquered, and she live streamed one and I live streamed another. I can't remember what sessions those were, but so I'd be willing to set up a camera and do a live stream to Facebook as well, so we get a little more of that. And Selena's live streams I share through the Progressive Caucus Facebook page as well, so those are available for people when those are happening. It can be fun when someone from DA is actually appearing before a committee, so that's nice. I'd like to do my own reports after DNC meetings, and of course sometimes there's a need to sort of mobilize folks in advance. So the last meeting, there was an amendment to the rules of the DNC that called on it actually passed. It diminished the power of the delegates to the convention, essentially put in place something that looked like it could be used as a veto power by the much smaller DNC membership. So there's like 3,000 delegates to the convention and about 400 or so DNC members. This amendment did change it so that some things passed by the 3,000 delegates, elected delegates, could be overturned by the DNC members, which people felt was a problem with transparency and democracy in the party. And so there was, so I participated in trying to get information about that out to folks, and I raised it as an issue at the DNC town hall that we held. So I guess I'm just raising that as an example of kind of, that there might be a need to kind of mobilize people around some issues, and I'm willing to do that. I've done that before without the title. So a couple other fun things that I've thought of or has come up in conversation with people that I've chatted with. And then I want to hear what other suggestions are around the room on this question. So everybody get ready with your suggestions. But we could do a daily video recap, after each day of the meeting, and have, Martha or a couple of the DNC team just saying, what happened that day and what their impressions. It might be fun for the Blue Boat Cafe to do an episode, before or after, like somehow tied to each meeting. Like that could be, maybe after might be the best for that venue, but yeah. Anyway, so so those are some ideas I had. Did anybody want to put star hand up in the chat if you okay, that kind of hands up. Okay, so other ideas, Beth.
I just had a follow-up question for that. I mean, to my understanding, these meetings are known relatively, at least like the weekend approximately that they're going to take place. But for the October meeting that you're talking about, I didn't know about it until a couple of weeks ago, but I feel like that's something that was planned earlier in the year.
Right.
What are you imagining about just letting people know that these are having a place on the website, like in October, middle October, we're having this, save the tentative date or something, so people
Yeah,
even know that this is something that's going to be happening.
right. Yeah, for sure. We could put it on there, there is a place for the DNC members to be to be listed on our website, and that could be a good place to say when the date of the next meeting is. People would have to know to look there. So then again, not everybody really cares about when the DNC meetings are, and we wouldn't necessarily want to bore our general membership with that if that's not their main issue. But like at minimum, posting the dates there on the website to let people know, when and where it's happening. And then I would be interested in having an email list of people, who want to know, updates on DNC stuff. And then that could be, when there's information, then that group alone could just receive an update, and whether that would be something that like I would manage on my own, external to DA's records, or if it would be something on Nation Builder, could be worked out, like what that needs to be. I think I'd like to have my own independent kind of newsletter, but of course I also want to work collaboratively with the team. So that would be something to talk about. Thanks,
All right, I have a couple ideas too.
Okay.
Thinking about how Katie Solon mentioned that it seems as though quite a bit of what happens at the DNC meetings doesn't happen in the main meetings, but outside of the meetings. And it may be more or less easy to communicate about that. I can imagine that the integrity of all of our DNC members is such so that there could be more communication about what happens outside of the meetings. And I like what you said about Martha writing and also John Bauman writing. And there's a third person, we've seen a DNC member from California named Michael Kapp, who does a summary of his experience of the DNC meetings too. When you talk about perhaps a report that you would give, maybe a newsletter, I can imagine that might be interesting. And I wonder if you have any thoughts about that.
Yeah, I love Michael Kapp's newsletter. It's fantastic. He's really upfront that he's there, like as a progressive representative of voters in California, and he shares. He does a recap message after each meeting and shares, how he voted and, why he voted. He voted against the rules and bylaws amendments as a group because of that amendment that I mentioned before, that took away power from the full delegation at the convention. So I would really love to do something similar that would just would be from me to people, whoever was interested in seeing that. So thanks for bringing that up, Bruce. For sure, that's a model that I'm interested in recreating.
I have a follow-up question too, and it kind of goes back a little bit to fundraising, and it might be one that others here would like to talk a little bit about it. I'm curious to understand a little bit why Democrats Abroad is apparently in kind of a fundraising challenge right now. It seemed as though last year we were pretty happy and buoyed by the support we were getting from the DNC. Now it seems as though the coffers are empty, and I'm curious about that. And over the last 2 years, I've worked with Sue quite a bit, and I've known her to be kind of a humble person, not one to boast very much. But I'd like it if you were willing to talk a little bit more about some of your fundraising experience also there in Toronto. So my understanding is that you've worked really hard on it, and I can imagine there have been some good successes.
Thanks, Bruce. Yeah, I've done fundraising for large and small organizations, universities, healthcare institutions. I started at Yale University doing fundraising there, including some international fundraising. I got a trip to Japan and came home with $1 million gift from that trip. And I've negotiated gifts and grants of different sizes, a lot of them in the, often in the 6 and 7 figure range. And that's been it's actually a collaborative process in many cases, in my experience, that developing a proposal together with, a faculty member or a lead staff person on a project, and then trying to anticipate what the potential funders' perspective is and what's in it for them, and what how to structure the project or the proposal in a way that will appeal to the most important aspects for them. And also going back to kind of, in some cases, I was even more involved in like project development and how how a project would be structured with an eye to the fundraising related to that, to ensure like a greater success in raising funds, to really have the project clarified and really clear in its intentions and its the resources that would be needed to ensure that there would be success. So yeah, just around that, I've worked for a women's shelter, worked for a small environmental organization, in addition to universities and healthcare. Okay, so I don't see anybody with a hands up, so I'll just maybe go ahead.
You've got Bill and
Bill.
Bill and then me.
Oh, I do. Okay. Hi, Bill. Oh, Bill, your mic.
Okay, now I hope I'm unmuted.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, you mentioned a very good quality that'll be very useful for what is it, a representative on the DNC, is you just in passing, well, I know how to work a room. Could you tell us how you actually do that? How do you work a room?
Okay, that's a good question. Okay, so one thing there's so many. Okay, one thing is partly because of my sort of sensitivity to other people, I have a tendency to approach people who are alone in a room. I realize that may not be going necessarily to the power centers. There's a reason that person doesn't have anyone to talk to, but I do sometimes do that, and I can find that very very helpful. In that case, I'm very mindful that I don't want to be in that conversation necessarily for too long. So I just establish rapport with the person, have some small talk, then I make sure that very early on I'm sharing what DA's work at the DNC meetings is. It's very easy to transition into that and just say why we're here, what we're doing, what the value add is that we're offering, that we're talking to state party, mostly state party representatives, to try, because there's a lot of people at the DNC meetings who are not state party representatives. There's people associated with all kinds of associations. They're open to the public, so anybody who wanted to lobby members can be there. There's there's a wide range of folks who are there. So I might explain what we're doing. Then that would prompt the person to say their role and everything. And I might ask them if there's any state party folks in the room that they know that maybe they thought I should speak to, or I might, if that they don't have any ideas, then I would just sort of find a way relatively quickly to say, it's been really great chatting with you, enjoy the rest of the meeting. And, didn't get out of that. Early in my career, I would get caught up in conversations that weren't high reward, I guess, and not be able to get out of those. So can be a really tough skill to sort of try to transition away. So, and then maybe look for someone I know in the room who's talking in a group conversation and try to join that. That can be challenging sometimes to join a group conversation. They're deep in conversation, and so that can be a little harder. But in that context, like a lot of people are, trying to find a place where they fit at the cocktail party or whatever. So I'm willing to do that. I don't really feel shy about just doing that. What else would I say? I tend to just kind of strike up conversations with people anywhere. So like if I'm, waiting for the washroom with someone next to me, or someone sitting on sitting somewhere resting for a bit, I'll chat with them. It's just kind of my nature. So I guess I could say more about that, but have business cards ready, be able to connect with people on the, on the phone or on, devices right away. That kind of thing can make a difference too.
Okay, that's really interesting, and it's a really important skill. If I can have a follow-up, and this relates to, this has to do with strategy. How have you thought about how would you work at the DNC to raise our issues? Would you have some kind of strategy to do it, or you just do it on the fly, that you see when you have an opportunity and go for it?
Well, I guess it would be a combination, Bill. My understanding is that the DNC delegation has already done a good job of knowing, I think they have a list of kind of, like going into the meeting, or if they don't, I would help, to develop this, like a list of where we have relationships already in place and where there might be, states where we don't yet have a relationship. So to sort of target those folks, our delegation divides up into the 4 regional caucuses. So we have like 2 members at each of those meetings. They happen at the same time, like Eastern, Western, So that's a good opportunity to arrive early, because the time before the meeting starts is really critical for networking. So arrive early, don't come right when the meeting's going to start, and be there, for that casual, sort of potential social time, and know who you need to, like, if you need to find the Alaska person, like know that, at the meeting that you're at, that they're on your list. So I'd say a combination of just, whatever opportunities come up, and then having sort of a strategy like that, like a hit list, kind of punch list. We'll call it. No, that's bad too. Those are both really bad metaphors.
Yeah. Action list, huh?
Action. Thank you. Okay. Action is neutral.
Strategic plan.
Okay.
We like action. That's neutral. Thank you.
Okay.
So I think
Okay,
I'm
well,
next.
thank you.
Oh yeah, sorry. I want to
ahead,
apologize to Liz, because I've been writing the question list to her instead of to everybody.
Oh.
So sorry, Liz. I'm getting all these weird little messages.
If you have a question, Liz, you're welcome to ask, but it's fine to just listen in too. Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask a question, because you mentioned associations, all the different kinds of groups that show up at these meetings. And I know my dad and his wife used to always go to the state clerks and secretaries association that is, for state legislators, and everybody had a really good time. I'm not sure what they got done, but at any rate, what are the, what kind of groups are there, and how could they be useful to us?
The groups there's things like the Democratic municipal elected officials. There's the Democratic mayor. So mayors is for the big cities. The municipal officials is for the small, mayors. And I guess mayors, I don't know, of smaller people representing, you know, so it would be the top people in the Democratic Mayors Association. So typically like 3, it seems like in the charter, most of them get to send 3. So it'd be 3 mayors, you know, who represent all the Democratic mayors, and then 3 people representing all of those municipal Democratic leaders, the Democratic Women's Group, youth, young Democrats, college Democrats, probably Democrat state attorneys general. These are all listed. If you go to the if you look at the charter, you can see the full list. If you go to the DNC website, democrats.org, you can see the higher profile, like bigger ones. So I think it's worth exploring, like what the you know, what kind of agenda we might have with them. I don't know how much attention DA has paid to them. I don't know, you know, I think we have our hands full getting to 50 states and getting funding from the DNC, but at the same time, we could explore, you know, potential alignments there. You know, certainly it would be good for the heads of these organizations to know that there is a Democrats Abroad and what our issues are, like to just have some awareness of that. I don't know. Yeah, we'd need to take some time to sort of maybe people here have some ideas for agendas that we could have with some of those groups I mentioned. Like, does anybody have, I know DA has spent some time looking at mayor's races that are kind of high profile, including primaries in cities that always vote Democrat, where the decision is going to be made. So, you know, maybe, you know, at least knowing somebody, you know, at the Mayor's Association might help us get to somebody. I don't know.
Who our hit list should be in various areas.
Our action list.
I know.
So does anybody have suggestions for those groups, and whether DA might have a particular agenda, or there's something in it for us with them? Yeah, Beth. I see you, Beth. I see you.
I just put in the chat, it seems like maybe not necessarily formally, but they would be divided by 501c3 or C4. And for people who might not be familiar with that, that's basically people who have their tax status can advocate political advocacy versus educational advocacy. So you're talking about democratic, municipal, or whatever, but then there's also like nonprofits and other organizations, unions, things that are doing organizing. So there's like, I feel like that's kind of where the divide is, and then the strategy is different based on that classification. Or
there are certainly lots of people there from unions, and you know, what kind of relationship DA might try to build with them. I'm not sure, but that would be a conversation to maybe have with Larry Cohen, or you know, who headed the Communication Workers of America, and Bernie Sanders union, you know, the union portion of Bernie Sanders campaign. So Larry could have insights into, you know, whether there's some special agenda DA might develop with the labor organizations. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's a really good insight, Beth. But to invest in DA when they're, I don't know, like, I mean, it's a domestic, I assume a domestic workforce that the unions are aligned with. So although something around Medicare for all, you know, Medicare for all or healthcare potentially could be, you know, could be an opportunity. Like National Nurses United, of course, is right in the lead on Medicare for all, and DA has, you know, we have that in our platform, and I think maybe I sponsored, or at least co-sponsored, and lobbied for our Medicare for all resolution that we passed in 2019. So we could do some collaborating around that. There was some discussion of doing possibly some joint phone banking that the Progressive Caucus was talking with the NNU about. They had a phone banking operation in London, in England, to call back to the States to talk to people about Medicare for all. And which I just really loved, together with NNU. That was fantastic.
Hey, thanks to Bill for asking that question about working the room. I'd like to loop back to that for a second and say, working the room for the last 2+ years often has been a room that looks pretty much like this one we're in right now. And that's where I've experienced Sue perhaps more than anywhere else working the room. And what I've noticed is that she asks questions, she listens carefully, and she makes suggestions. And she doesn't hide anywhere. She has an opinion, she expresses it respectfully. And that's what has impressed me pretty darn much, especially during the last 2 years, seeing her working rooms like this. I want to say something too about the mayors, quickly asking a question. I have a son who has a friend who has been working for the Mayors Association of the United States. And I've learned in that context that sometimes when the Democratic Party is pushing legislation, maybe it's even passed, going back to the Obama years, and now with President Biden, the senators, the Republicans, may try to block it. And if it gets passed, then try to push it aside. Same with many Republican governors. But at the mayoral level, it seems like there's pretty broad consensus that we need help. And it seems as though it's likely that we, working together with our DNC delegation, can perhaps encourage more attention being paid to the mayors of the United States as a way to get more done and be more effective with our implementation. Does that, as they say, resonate with anyone? Sue, what do you think?
I don't think I have any smart ideas on that, Bruce. It's kind of, yeah, I'm blank on that one right now. It might be because I've been making too many phone calls for people. Maybe Marnie has something really smart to say. Oh, Marnie, your mic.
Well, yeah, what I responded to what Bruce said, because so many things are being decided on a state level because we don't do it, because so little is happening in Washington, D.C. So, and where we're getting killed is in the states, and especially the states that are dominated by Republicans. And there are too many of those. But so I'm wondering, in answer to what Bruce said, is I wonder if there's an opportunity to link the state teams and build up the state teams as a working group, almost with if in your position, if you can make the contacts, whether it's with associations or legislators or Democratic Party groups, whether that, we could build more collaboration so that our work is more directed. That's just intentional and everything. So that's just, okay, that's sort of an idea.
Mm-hmm.
A vague one, albeit, but.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely worth thinking about. I do know, as long as it doesn't create extra work for the state teams, beyond like their good focus on just getting out the vote is really fantastic. That they're really kind of laser focused on that. I think they're also taking on like voter access, ballot access, and those kinds of things as well. So yeah, so I'm not sure how much additional bandwidth they've had. I mean, I don't know if I really know where your suggestion would lead in terms of like what that would be about, but I would just I would caution just to not stretch them too thinly.
Well, I think I was just thinking they'd be maybe like a source of, oh gosh, about what races are, are critical. They'd be more of a source of help than that's what I was thinking anyway.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Okay.
Them versus, I mean, because we don't, in town A, we don't have 1 million people, but
right,
if we find out where we really have to focus.
Yeah.
Anyway, just a really vague thought.
Right.
It's good that you ask us we don't always give good answers, but it's good that you ask us questions.
Yeah, well, I didn't have anything, but Beth, I think, has something to share.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. It again, kind of with the description of what to talk about for this, one of the things that I came up with when it says, what are our priority goals to achieve through the relationship with the DNC and its members? And I know it made a pretty big difference in 2022. I don't remember if we did a lot of it in 2020, but the voter rolls and working with the different states to be able to expand the electorate. And I was curious to hear more about what you have to say about that. Plus, it is, I mean, I'm personally invested when it comes to the legislative impact, because I literally was one of the people organizing witness testimony for ballot access, because if most of the people in your state can only get a federal ballot, then all of these races we're talking about, people don't even have the ability to vote on them. So I was wondering what you had to say about the voter rolls, and also committing resources to the change from the bottom up, I guess, the legislative, to help ballot access for people.
Right. Yeah, I actually think getting voter rolls, I mean, it's obviously, well, not, maybe not obvious to everyone, but I think it's a really, really important sort of, top tier job for DNC members to be explaining to state context and the state parties, like what value we bring, what we've delivered, where we've been the margin of victory, and to explain the critical role that getting voter rolls can play in that we're able to take that and convert it straight into votes, in their state, in their districts. Yeah, could be state level votes, as well as federal. So that's what I would say about that. That's really top tier priority. In terms of committing, so there could be some agenda with state, so their state party, like Democratic state party representatives who are at the DNC, who would, I think, align with us on access to, ballot access for Americans abroad, knowing that we're delivering blue votes overall. So they could be allies in those efforts, and they may not be aware, without DA's help, that there's a log jam or a barrier to getting those votes in. So I think they can be allies to that. And I think you were asking, Beth, about committing DA's resources to legislation related to, is that what you meant by when you said allocating resources, committing resources?
Yeah, it's somewhat of that, or if that's something potentially, because in the past, it was emphasized that fundraising was notable from the DNC to DA. Their investment was towards personnel, I guess, if you will. And so, like, the types of positions, legislative liaison, or I mean, obviously voter protection and some of these other things, like, what is that something you would see being
okay.
something? Yeah. And also just it's a lot. I mean, Jared is very busy, and that's for a good, like, that's for a reason, because there's a lot to do. And yeah,
okay,
just the amount of the work,
right,
but also, yeah, volunteer hours, but also the potential of that being an investment. Yeah, yeah, staffing.
Right. Oh boy. yeah, I mean, that's the age old question, right? Do you invest in returns right now, or something that's going to result in strengthening your pipeline down the road, right? That legislative work. So, without seeing right now kind of what kind of proposals in the works for the DNC, it's hard for me to say, and what kind of needs have already been identified. And I don't know how much I'll, as a DNC member, I don't know what the interplay is. Actually, that's something I need to learn about, like the executive committee sort of determining like what our funding requests would be to the DNC versus like the role of the DNC members. Like, are they do they work together on collaborating and strategizing that, or is it more like the XCOM figures it out and the DNC members strictly are the spokespeople for that? So I guess we might want to explore whether if it is the latter, that maybe there's a role for DNC members to participate more actively in designing, or at least consulting on what the ask might be. But in general, I think investing in the legislative efforts is important. It's how we advance, longer term, and unfortunately, we kind of have to do it all. Like, I'm thinking the party also needs to deliver action, for everyday Americans, like, to get votes, to get people, excited. They need to see that when the Democrats are in power, that we do things for them, we make a difference for them, we make the playing field more level, we make life livable, we make things more affordable. So that's not really up to DA to do that. Like we can advocate for certain things, but really, we rely on the president and our elected officials to deliver on those things. And then, of course, when they are up against obstacles like, party members who disrupt the agenda, like we saw, in the Mansion and Cinema holding, making so that we couldn't achieve everything that we wanted to, or, more importantly, probably Republicans, like refusing to pass things and negotiating out, a lot of the things that mean a lot to everyday Americans. Then we have to make the message, take the message out about what we were able to achieve, and that the real problem is, is the Republicans. Keeping an eye as a progressive myself, that also our party can do a better job of understanding the plight of everyday Americans. So I went way off in a tangent. Way off on a tangent there from legislative. I was just trying to put it in a broader context that, it's part of a whole ecosystem of how we get votes and how we deliver change for Americans, that kind of, there's this interchange back and forth. But it is important to me, the legislative work you're talking about, Beth, for sure. And I would like to see DA invest time and resources in that, as much as we're able, balancing with all that we have to do. And I will say that I think we can get lots and lots of volunteers in DA. And one thing that's really important, and it relates directly to what you said, about this topic, because we talk about, how much can our volunteers do? Like how many projects can we take on and divide, or spread too, are we spreading too thinly, our volunteer resources? And I think improving our culture for volunteers is really important in retaining volunteers and having people feel like this is where they want to be, that we try to really avoid, really just get away from snarky comments on shared chats, rumors, and factions, like that. We try to just find a way to all work together. And when someone is elected to a position, that they're supported by the people who voted against them, they're supported. And whether that's at the chapter level, the country level, or globally for DA, that we want everyone to succeed. And unfortunately, I don't think we've really fully seen that. That said, when something's not right, and when there's an issue or a problem, like we need to say that. We need to try to point out a problem. Sometimes people can't see them, so we need to point them out with kindness and compassion and an open mind, like asking, why is this way? Why is this way? Here's why. Here's why it's a problem. Here's what I foresee happening in the future. So I'm not saying everybody's just nice, it's just all lollipops and puppies. Like, no, we have to say hard things to each other sometimes that I didn't, and I've had those conversations. I've said to people, the way your decision or your behavior in this meeting wasn't helpful. Here's why. Here's what I saw, and this is what I'm concerned about. That it sends a message that so, in one case I'm thinking of, it sends a message that some people are treated differently than other people. Someone has a breach and conflict of interest or something, we just deal with that. We don't say like, oh, they didn't mean it, or oh, they've done so much for DA. It's just it's somewhat relevant, but still, this thing happened, and the concept, there needs to be a response to that. So I think we can do that in ways that are kind and compassionate, and in the end, that's much more effective. Like people that I've been in direct opposition with on issues, there's several that I feel I have a really good rapport with, even though we see things differently, we disagree on the issues, but have mutual respect. And there's a lot of that in DA. There's a lot of that, but we can do better. And then we'll be keeping our volunteers. People won't be running away because they see comments that are nasty, or hear comments that are nasty, that make them wonder, why do I want to be here? What is this all about? I see Liz's message. Oh, electricity going out. Yeah, I can understand that.
Oh,
Liz.
right.
Yeah.
There's rolling blackouts or something, right?
Oh boy. Where are you, Liz? You can put it in the chat if you want. Oh, hey, Liz.
Oh.
She's in the
Sorry, I
dark.
just moved from outside so I could microwave my dinner before it went out. Yeah, I'm in South Africa, so we've got rolling blackouts all the time.
Oh
my
11.5
gosh.
hours out for me
Wow.
yesterday. This is-
Wow.
I remember Courtney talking about that, so it sounds really frustrating.
yeah, it is, but you learn to deal with it.
Yeah. Oh
But
boy.
good to see you in
Yeah. Oh, thanks for
Sort of.
joining. Thanks for joining, Liz. Appreciate it. Hope I've got your
thank you.
vote. Hope I've got your vote.
Yeah, I'm still figuring this out, because I think that it is a really difficult decision. And I support both of you, so I am struggling with this a little bit, but
thank
you so much.
Okay, thanks for saying that. I appreciate your time today. It was good to have you here. Thanks so much.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you to you for putting all of your time and effort into all of you.
Sure.
And see you you're in our time zone, so around noon tomorrow.
Yeah, noon tomorrow. Yep.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Any last questions or anything, Liz?
No, nothing specific from me. As I said, I really haven't known that much about our relationship with the DNC.
Okay.
So all of this has been a big learning process for me, and I've just made me realize how much I still have to learn about it.
Yeah, well, I'll be if I get to do this, I'll be learning lots more myself as well. So of course,
Learning is fun.
Learning is fun, yeah, and coming
Yes,
with a
it
fresh perspective can be very valuable. You can think, people have a mindset of, oh, this is how this works, and then somebody who hasn't been there in that capacity before can see fresh connections and stuff. So it's good to bring in new.
Find that flashlight, Liz.
Yeah, I've got it. It's still light enough outside, but sunset is also at noon. So, but I just needed to heat my food before the
Oh,
electricity went out now.
Take care.
Got my light.
Oh, maybe we should stop the recording, I guess.
Oh,
Oh. Well, it is the hour. We're on the hour.
Can we stop it?
yeah.
Did Bruce start it? How do, oh, so I can stop it, right? Okay, I stopped
I
it.
don't